Hello, I am Bentham and welcome to Factorio 0.17. It has been a while, and it's a hell of an update. It's been 14 months since I last did an update overview. That is how long ago 0.16 came out, and in that time the devs have been working away at a lot of stuff. We are now getting pretty close to the completion of Factorio. We're getting close to 1.0. Apparently there's going to be one more after this, 0.18, which basically just wraps up what is mostly already done, and just like dots the I's and crosses the T's, and fills in any gaps that happen to crop up from the changes in this one. And then the game is complete. It seems like there's no new features coming, really, and indeed there aren't that many here in the sort of conventional sense. Usually when I do a video like this, there's a whole bunch of like new buildings and vehicles and things like that to show you, but it's all finished already. The game is feature complete and has been for a while, but there's still a lot of tweaking and improving and optimizing that the devs have been wanting to do, and they've been doing a fantastic job of it. And so, despite the fact that there's no specific new things like artillery wagons or nuclear power this time, this is, I think, the longest changelog in Factorio history. There are 5,325 words in the changelog, and 522 separate items between balance changes, UI overhaul things, combat changes, research stuff, bug fixes as well, because of course there's always bug fixes, and it's insane. I don't know where to start. There's so much stuff. I've made a shortlist, but the shortlist is multiple pages of a notebook, because there's so much to do. So I think I'm just going to start by working through the little demonstration area that I set up, and we'll see what we get through, and I'll try and cross it off and keep track of everything. I have no idea how long this is going to be, but it's definitely not going to be as quick as the last one. But we'll try and cut it down to the simple stuff. I mean, I can't even take 2 steps without you seeing new things. But let's go over here. This is the classic thing that I usually do, is show off the new icons and things like that have come in this update. So I have them lined up here, but actually we'll probably skip over this pretty quickly, because all this stuff it's all icons for structures, and the structures themselves have had their art changed, so it's the same thing, but we'll be able to see them in person and in slightly more detail. But yeah, all of the chests and some of the belt stuff has been changed, walls as well, and then there's one thing here which is new, and there's not much to say about it really, but I guess we'll mention how it works now, because it gets one particular thing out of the way. This is the belt immunity thing. Yes, the belt immunity equipment. It is a new thing for power suits, and the icon's pretty simple. It's a belt with an X over it. I think they literally just put it together from assets they already have. But I've got one installed on my my power suit here, and it's a tiny 1x1 thing. It's slightly annoying because it's like, what do I do with this space now? Do I put a solar panel in it or something maybe? But yeah, this thing makes us immune to belt movement, which is brilliant. Let me just like put this down. Here we go. We've got some blue belts here. I can just stand on these now. I can just stand here and I don't move. That's brilliant. That is super useful. So late game, you will just be able to walk around your factories without being flung off in random directions by belts. And if you want to get a speed boost from belts, you can take the thing off, which is useful. So yeah, that's the one like actually new item in the game, I think. That's it. That's the only thing. That everything else is just sort of overhauled and changed, and even some things removed. We'll get to that as well. But over here we have the actual things placed on the ground, so you can see them a little bit better. So we've got the chests, wood, iron, steel. This is the only time I'm ever building an iron chest. Iron chests are heresy. This is the word of me. You shall understand and never build an iron chest. Why would you ever build an intermediate storage thing when you unlock the next one, like 10 minutes later? It's my argument. I don't know. I don't like iron chests. They're silly. But that's what they look like now. They've got a nice. It's been a while since they've been overhauled, I think. So they're looking a lot neater now, and you can see that this is like a shipping crate sort of design and things like that. They've thought about how this works. And then we have the logistics chests, and they've got an interesting new feature to them. If they now have a little port in the top, like logistics roboports do. So I think robots can now maybe pop inside them, or they open to receive items going into them or something like that, which is pretty neat. So yeah, they're all nice and snazzy and and higher res now. We've got accumulators looking very nice. You can see all the little wires and stuff going on there. Same basic design though. And then we have the turrets that can do a nice spin for us. Or there's a lot of things in the way, but you can see very nice. And I like the sort of angular stand that the laser turrets got going. And then we have the flamethrower turrets. I never use them, but we can still appreciate how cool they look with the little flame at the front and stuff like that. Moving on, we have our walls. You can see our gates over there. Already excited about my arrival. But yes, these are the new walls. They're a lot slimmer now, and sort of, I mean, it's of course the higher detail thing of like they are a bit more sleek now and a lot more detail to them. I like the little like stains of like water coming out of the ports there and making stains on it. It's very realistic. That's neat. And also they now like probably fill in a block when you build a square of them, which is quite neat. So when you build multiple rows of them, it's like a solid wall of concrete, which is neat. I've just demonstrated the corners now, all that works. And then over here we have the gates, which I can't stand too close to because they'll disappear. But there we go. Demonstrated how the gates look in all the different orientations, basically made slimmer, and all the usual stuff, and all the mechanics of them are the same. Of course, pretty simple. That's so very nice. And then over here is a thing that isn't actually a visual overhaul, but I just plonked it in the middle of here anyway. This is a new thing where you can now fast replace pipes to ground, which is convenient. So if we want to quickly switch a pipe to going underground, you just have to do that. Piece of cake, love it. Also, yeah, there was one visual change to the pipes, which is that this pipe is now shorter. I like this is the one thing they did of like they were having issues with pipes overlapping things or something, or the art of it not looking fantastic in some way, so they just made it shorter. So if you look very closely, there's a slight difference in the length of the pipe depending on whether or not it connects. Like you can see the overlap there. It's I don't know, I just find it weird and funny, but it's in there, it's in the changelog. And then here we have the changes to the belts. And of course this is important because belts are things you're going to see all the time. So you can see they've been made 3D for the first time. Up till now they've always just been this flat thing on the ground, and it's not really made sense how they function. It's just this magical moving belt. But now it's been raised onto rollers that are in a frame, and it all sort of makes sense. They've not actually changed anything about the surface of the belts at all, probably because that'd be a nightmare at this point after all the visual fixes they've been doing for the current design. But it doesn't need it. All they had to do was just shift it all up a bit and put this new look below it, so you can sort of see the frame poking out the sides here, and then when it's moving sideways, you can get a proper good look at it, and all the little wheels turning, and it's quite neat, and it makes sort of more sense when you're looking at it. And also the splitters, the main part hasn't been changed, but of course that's on rollers as well, as demonstrated there. But they have completely changed the underground belts. They've changed the covering on them to be a sort of more smooth thing, which is quite neat. And yeah, that's all very nice. And then I'm just showing how it all connects here and how everything moves. And then also I've shown how they connect here, which is badly. This is the same as it was before, that the belts just sort of mash into each other and it doesn't make sense. And it's actually like it was bad before, but it's kind of weirder now because you know that they've got this sort of roll off on the end that overlaps the edge of a tile. Like you can see the tile boundaries like here. So this one overlaps on that side, and this one overlaps there. So now, imagining that, it's like, is that all just clipping? It's very weird. Also, the wheels are interesting, because you can see it spinning slowly on this side, and fast on this side, which is strange. You might not be able to pick it up on YouTube, but you can in the game at least. I don't know, I just find it funny. Overall, the belts are fantastic, though. I don't want to be seen as complaining. It's just this funny thing of, like, you can't make that work. But I like that they've tried, and it's like, okay, now we've got the turbo wheels and the slow wheels, and they're just had to merge for it to make sense. And then over here is basically just a reminder for me. Oh, and there we go, we're standing on the belts and not moving around. It's amazing and wonderful. But yeah, there has actually been a slight change to the belt compression. So the belts travel at the same speed, and items on the belts travel at the same speed, but they are slightly more meshed together on the belts now. The belts have slightly more capacity, which was a thing they introduced to make it so that a full belt would always have the exact same amount of items on one tile. There was this weird thing where, because of the spacing, if you had a sensor on a belt telling you what was on the belt at any one time, as one item would move off, and then after a brief time another item would move on, and it would alternate like that. So the amount of items on a belt would constantly oscillate between two numbers, and I can't remember what the numbers were. It was like 12 and 13 or something like that. So they've now made it so that the belts compress things slightly more so that it's perfect. And so now belts always have the exact same amount on them, like moment to moment. And it means that there's now more throughput on the belts because everything's slightly more compressed. You can fit more on the belt, more travels through as the belt moves. So belts can now support more on them. But that's been balanced by the fact that, well, almost fully balanced, sort of partially, by the change in furnaces. Furnaces now work slightly faster. So you don't have to change much about your belts. I think the ratios are almost the same. I think it's now the case that the ratio people use as an approximation is now actually 100% correct. I think it's that it's like 72 furnaces fills a blue belt on both sides, and that's done. That's perfect now. And previously it was like 71. No, it was like 70.8 or something. Now it's exactly 72 because they both changed by roughly 10%. Belts are roughly 10% faster, furnaces are roughly 10% faster, but it's not quite exactly that. I couldn't bother working out the real numbers, but now the ratios are even more perfect. And also belts can send slightly more in a direction, so if your factory's not quite managing something right now, maybe it is now. Maybe once you've updated, it'll manage to deal with things a little bit better. Though on the opposite side of that, mining drills have been made slower. They work about 10% slower now, so you're going to need a lot more mining drills to fill a belt, because it's 10% slower for the miners and 10% faster for the belts. You got to add like 20-ish% more miners, probably. I don't know. Minor details, really, though. When it comes to miners, you just plonk as many down as you want, and then it'll fill the belt, or it won't. But yes, that's that stuff over there. And then over here, we have the new power pole stuff. They've all been overhauled and made a lot more detailed, and it's quite cool and a bit more realistic, I think, as well. More in line with real-world designs, maybe, or maybe more just in line with the aesthetic. I don't pretend to know about how power poles in real life work, but these look a lot like the real ones, but small. I mean, the previous ones did, but there's a lot more detail. One thing I really like about it is that they all can clearly show all of the wires moving through to a singular place. And they've got a red wire line, a green wire line, and a normal copper wire line. And it all sort of leads into various, like, boxes and things like that. I like it. And they've got a couple of different rotations. It's a nightmare setting up power poles in different rotations and then getting rid of all the wires. So I only showed you a couple, but they've all got, like, 4 different directions they can face, depending on how the wires connect to them. Yeah, that's very nice. And we're getting more and more of the elements of the game up to the higher resolution. We're mostly there now, and finishing off the last few items on the long list of entities in the game is one of the things that's being saved for 0.18. I think it's one of the reasons 0.18 exists, is that they couldn't quite get it all done. So they're getting a lot of it done now, and there's just a few more things. I don't even know what, but there's probably some stuff in the game that's still low res. I don't really know. But apparently there's things yet to be done, so we'll see. So that is all the visual stuff except for the rocket silo. So I'm going to go wander off over this way, and we'll come back to some of this stuff later. There are many more things to demonstrate, but in this particular factory, I have a rocket silo set up and ready to go. This one has to show the animation, so I couldn't be bothered like just setting one up and preparing it. So I just paused the one that's running in this factory of mine. Oh, jeez. There's a lot to navigate around here. Here we go. This is a factory that's never seen the light of YouTube. This is just one that I had fun with offline a while back. That was during 0.16. And it's all broken now because of various reasons that will become clear. But here's our rocket silo. So it's been changed in size. It's no longer like 10 vertically and 9 across. It is 9 by 9, which is convenient. Funnily enough, because of how updates work, this is now filling a 10 by 9 space, but it's a 9 by 9 shape. It's got half a block's clearance above and below, and I haven't bothered moving it because that's just awkwardness. But it's got these cool like docking clamp things going on. Well, not like just steadying clamps, towered things. I don't know what to call them. That latch onto the rocket when it deploys. So let's get this running. Just got to flip that round, and in a second it'll finish its work. And here we go. The alarm is very quiet. I think they've done some sound rebalancing, so my usual audio settings aren't quite correct in some cases. The rocket is the same as before, I believe. But look at it. These things move and connect to it and then get ready to launch. and then do that. Set it launching, and you'll see these things like disconnect and revert to their previous position. And that's all the animations for that. There we go, and off the rocket goes, and that is rocket number 251 for this map. I've launched quite a few here. There we go. So here we are, back in the visual stuff. Let's have a wander over here, where I have, yeah, it's down here. I've got a little setup here. So we've got a basic, like, early game factory sort of mock-up here. We got a couple of belts leading into a furnace, leading into an assembly. Don't question how it works, it doesn't. But this is going to demonstrate one of the new features of the game, and it's a feature that many people are familiar with because it's been a mod for years, but they've made it part of the game, and that is this little button here. This is the upgrade planner, and if I grab this and mouse over this, then my bots will replace everything with the next tier of building, and we can do it again. And then we get up to the third tier. So I think this is all the stuff that can be affected by it. I had a quick check through of things that I thought might be, and it seemed like it was just belts, fast inserters, well, standard inserters through to fast and then stack inserters, furnaces and assemblers. I don't think anything else is affected. I could be wrong, like concrete might be or something like that. I don't know how, I didn't think to check that, and I've only just thought of it right now, so oops. But, yeah, this is now, you could just use this across your entire factory. It just gives a logistics order to replace the item with the upgraded one. So, finally, it's part of the main game, and you can just very quickly upgrade your entire factory to blue belts and probably break your blue belt production system for a while, but eventually it'll be done, and everything will be upgraded. You can just leave your bots to worry about that. Which is wonderful, and it does furnaces as well, so you can quickly upgrade a furnace column. If for some reason you're still using stone furnaces, and yet you have logistics, I guess it's good that it's there, you never know. And then it upgrades standard inserters to fast inserters to stack inserters, and I don't think it does any others. I tried filter inserters to stack filter inserters, and it didn't work, and I think the reason for that is that it's sort of a side grade or a diagonal grade, because stack filter inserters can only filter one thing, whereas standard filters can filter 5 things, so you might not want them to be upgraded. It might break it if you do that, so it's limited to the main line of inserters, where the only difference is speed and throughput of it. Okay, moving on, shall we have a look at trains? We've got some right here. There's a few different things going on with trains, so let's have a look in the map first. So we've got some cool stuff here. I'm just going to go and look at my factory and look at all the trains pootling about doing the thing, because it's quite cool. The icons have been changed. Oh, you can see there, that's a liquid tank there. So you can see that an engine is a pointed arrow, standard cargo wagons are rectangles, the fluid wagons are ovals, and then that is an artillery wagon there. So that's quite a cool way of just quickly identifying everything on site from the map. And then you can click on these and take a look at the new UI. And there's all new UI. The problem is there's so many different changes to this that I can't even just approach them bit by bit, because they're all integrated. So there's new UI stuff going on. I haven't even got to that yet. We'll do that in a minute, but they've changed how the train stuff works. I mean, this is an element of the new UI stuff, where they've got progress bars now on the different, like, weight conditions, so you can very clearly see what is progressing. So you, like, the cargo inventory one will progress if the inventory state is changing, and you'll be able to see, like, if a train's about to fulfill its time condition, or its inventory state condition, or anything else like that might have a progress bar or something. So it's super. It's just a really convenient way of telling what state a train is in. Also, as you can see, it's got a line showing where it's going, so you can now see exactly what route it's going to take. Getting to its destination, then you can see the cargo inventory bar is filling, and it filled faster than the time bar. So that's the one that set it off, and you can maybe edit the time bar based on how far it progressed and things like that, instead of just having to eyeball it and guess. And also now you can modify to the second. I don't know if you could do that before. I think maybe you could have typed it in, but now there's just a slider, so you can very easily edit that. And yeah, it's all just a lot more snazzy looking and easier to sort of understand. And you can see the ore conditions and end conditions are going to occupy this bit here, and all that sort of thing. I haven't even got into exploring all the changes of this yet. I may well have missed things. I'm not really sure. It's hard to say, but there we go. It's filling in that again. It's all very cool. and you can just like hop between them and click on a station as well and get all the information for that. Some of this stuff I don't know if it was there previously, but you can see it all looks new. Everything looks new, so I'm clicking on it and being like, oh, you can click on this. I don't even know. But yeah, here we've got a little mock-up of the train, so you can see all the different wagon things going on there. I just made a little bit of a loop, and I'm going to demonstrate the waypoint system, I guess is what you call it. This train here, in fact, we shouldn't be in this train, really. I'm going to hop back out. Just stand here. So this one, I've set it to go between two stations that are on this little loop here, and I haven't given them any conditions. I've just said go to that station. And what this now means, if we set it running and watch it go, is that it doesn't stop. It just goes through the station. If there's no condition for, like, how long it should wait for, it just goes straight through. It doesn't, like, stop and start immediately or anything like it used to. It will just use it as a waypoint. And the fantastic use of this is that when a train is traveling between two locations and there's multiple routes that it could take, you can make it take a particular route by having a waypoint. So put a station on the route you want it to use, put that in as a waypoint without giving it any conditions, and the train will take the route that station is on, so it can pass through that station on the way to where it's going. So if you've got a particularly busy section of rail, you can then tell a certain number of trains to bypass that section and go through a different area using the waypoints, which is brilliant. Super useful way of preventing congestion in really busy rail systems. Now we need to stop the thing. Oh, there we go. And yeah, you can see the route it's taking, and it's plotting a little bit ahead of each thing, which is useful to see. But we'll just switch that to manual, and it'll slow down, and that's the worst place it could stop. Let me just hop in this and move it out of the way. And I'll show you the features of this next train here. So this one has a new kind of weight condition in it, the passenger weight condition. You can now specify that a train sets off, or indeed doesn't, based on whether or not there's a passenger in it. So I've set this to wait until there's a passenger present. So when I hop in the train, I didn't set it to I didn't set it to automatic. Let's do it again. Okay, so currently it's stopped because it's not fulfilled the condition of a passenger. If I hop in the train, it sets off immediately. So this is a super useful way of making transport trains just for taking you between different places. You can just have a couple different shuttles, and the moment you hop in them, they'll take you to their designated location. Or indeed, they can take you to a waypoint, and on the way to the waypoint, you can specify the next station that's going to go to. And also, I've set the condition so that it will set off from the other station when the passenger is not present, or when 10 seconds have passed. So if you're taking a quick tour, you want to send the train home, hop out, off it goes. Actually, that's a bad idea. Why would you want a train to leave when you leave? Then you don't get to be in the train anymore. But I'm sure it has its uses. You might want a train to hang around in a certain location if there's a passenger present or something like that. I don't even really know. But there's some cool things you can do with that as well. So there's the new changes to the scheduling stuff. I don't think there's anything else new. We can look at the menu for it. It shows them read it out if the train can't go to that station. That might be a new feature. Hard to even say. One of the things is that we've been looking at Factorio Friday Facts posts for 14 months now, with all these different features in, and you start to forget what's actually in the game yet or not. I haven't been playing Factorio much recently, so I've been anticipating this update, so I've been forgetting about what is and isn't there. But I think everything else is as it was before. I think that's all things that have previously existed. But yeah, there we go. That is that's some of the new train stuff. I'm sure I've missed things, honestly. On this sort of UI end of how the trains work, there's tons of things that have been sort of tweaked and things. I mean, all the UI stuff is different, and perhaps now is the time to get to that. So let's just, well, there's nowhere to walk for this one, really. I guess I'll walk back over here, because there is one thing I can do. Go stand at our sign here. So, I'm sure it hasn't escaped your attention that there are some various changes here to how everything is looking. One thing that I will address actually at this point, just while we're here, is this conspicuous square here, this lack of anything. This is the slot that used to be occupied by the pickaxe, but the pickaxe is no more. And I say for good reason, though I realize many people are paying their respects to the lost pickaxe, and I'm not gonna fault it too much for existing, but it didn't really belong in this game, I think, and the devs clearly agree. because it was just this weird random thing that its only purpose was an occasional annoyance, really, was the thing. Of every now and then your pickaxe would run out and you'd be like, oh crap, I've got to make a new one. And it just took a little bit of your time and didn't really, it didn't contribute to the gameplay. It didn't make the game more fun to play by having there be a pickaxe you would have to every now and then craft, or get a bot to craft and deliver to you, or anything like that. So they just got rid of it, and they introduced a research which upgrades your mining rate. So now you just mine like you have a pickaxe, and then at a certain point you can do a research which allows you to mine at the rate of a steel pickaxe. But we'll get to the research stuff a little bit more later on. But yeah, the pickaxe is gone, and that's one more thing from the very first build of Factorio that has disappeared. There are many more things, of course. Belts were in the first build of Factorio, but yeah, it's just one of those holdovers from the very beginning where it was just put in because it's what you do. You have a game where you gather resources, you put a pickaxe in it. That's always the thing, but in a game like Factorio, actually, you don't want that. And so it's been removed. And another thing that has been removed, while I'm at this, so I've got distracted from the UI thing immediately, but another thing that's been removed is wood. I mean, there is still raw wood. If you chop down a tree, you still get wood, and there are many recipes that require wood, but previously there was this intermediate wooden thing as well. So you had raw wood, and then you had wood, and that was just processed wood, processed into planks, and then that would be made into something. But that's been removed, and I say good riddance to that, because what was the point? I think everything that used raw wood needed that particular thing, and there was really no purpose to it, because most of the things that require wood, you just handcraft, or there's one time where you set up a little array that makes basic power poles and wooden chests, but actually you don't need those. You could just use steel chests and the medium power poles and never actually even need wood. So it was just this random kind of pointless feature that, again, was a holdover from the original build of Factorio when it was a Flash game. I remembered seeing it when I went back and looked at that. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't contribute to the gameplay. It's just this random little extra step that's just too niche to matter to factory building. So they got rid of it. But then there's something else, and I'm continuing this sidetrack. There's one other thing that I'm annoyed about that a change that's similar to the wood thing, but the opposite. Because another thing that has been here from the very beginning that is like the wood item is the iron stick. I don't like the iron stick, and I've never liked the iron stick. It's dumb, because just like wood, it's this random intermediate product that barely matters, because you needed it for, like, the pickaxe and rails. Rails was the one thing where you actually needed to, mass produce it to do that, and it just didn't... I've never seen the point of it. But unlike with wood, the devs have doubled down on it. They've given it a larger role, which is, I guess, an improvement. I guess the worst situation was keeping it where it was. You either have to give it more things to do so it's more relevant, or get rid of it. They decided to give it more things to do, and we'll see how that goes. But, now it is used in power poles, so it's sort of like, just when you thought you got rid of one stupid intermediate product from making power poles, you've got another one. Now they use iron sticks. And they're also used in something else. Let me see. They're used in train stops now, and also the speaker, for what that's worth, because a speaker is basically a power pole, so it's the same sort of thing. But yeah, they're used in train stops, which is random. And yeah, I don't know why they're a thing. I don't know why iron sticks are still here, because they're just used in 4 things. Previously it was like 3, and now it's 4. Because one thing's been removed, and the pickaxe, and 2 things have been added. Power poles and train stops, and speakers, there's a few things. But still, I don't know why, because you're still not going to be mass producing these, except to make rails. Nothing else here. Like, maybe power poles. I guess now they're using medium power poles, so you're forced to use them, but it's like, you're never going to put it on the main bus. You're going to have a couple of assemblers in your factory making it, and I don't see why it needs to be given a bigger role, or it needs to be got rid of, and it's not quite there yet. They're getting there, I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, that's me just ranting about minor random things like iron chests and stuff, like I sometimes do. But yes, the UI! I got distracted from the UI by various other things. So, it's all shiny and new. It's all, like, these nice corners and inset buttons and highlighting and cool stuff like this, and everything's sort of consistent. They basically went through the entire UI of the game and developed consistent rules to make everything make sense, because there were some weirdnesses in certain places. It just made everything match and everything fit together, so once you've learned how the UI works, you know how all the UI elements work. And so there's these nice grey boxes now and stuff, and the buttons sort of highlight in certain ways, and when you press them, they click down and stuff like that, so like, there's consistency here, and there's now a button. There's a specific button for alt mode, so that people know it exists, because this is a problem I have with alt mode, is that no one, when they start playing, knows alt mode exists, but when you start playing is when you need alt mode the most, because you need to, like, be able, because you just end up with a factory full of assemblers and they all look the same, you don't know what you're doing. If you got alt mode on, you know what everything's doing and you can keep track of it a little bit better, which is good when you're just getting started and you don't know what's going on yet. Yeah, they've added that. They've added a whole other host of buttons here. Let's go through the buttons, because there's some quite cool stuff here. So, alt mode is a thing. Here we have deconstruction planner. So that's now no longer an item, really. You just pick it and you use it, and then when it's done, you hit Q and it just disappears, because you've now got a button right here for it. You don't need to put it in your hotbar. Why would you? The upgrade planner's there as well. Blueprints are there as well. And blueprint books. So you just grab them all from here now. And I think for some reason there's still... You still get it from here? I guess they're just going to have both, and I guess there's different applications of this. Shows like the personal blueprints and shared blueprints, and then it's also got these in the top, just because might as well have the buttons right there. There's also buttons for toggling some elements of the power suit, so you can switch off your personal rubber port to prevent bots doing jobs you don't want them to be doing. You can also turn off your exoskeleton, so if you're running around but you want to stand in an exact specific spot, then you can do that. And funnily enough, this came up because when I was trying to stand in this thing, I'm like, I've got to centralize it. I want to stand in the middle. No, it's not quite there. And then I went, wait a minute, this new button. Click. And now I can perfectly align myself. So that's an actual use I found for that button, at least for me. Rarely it'll actually be of use, but it's good when you need to not be going crazy fast. Which is sometimes a problem when you've got a power suit loaded with exoskeletons. And then we have some cool buttons here that are new features. We have cut, copy, and paste, and also import blueprint string is a thing here as well. And undo is another thing as well. So that pipe I built earlier, I can undo that. It doesn't actually make the thing never have happened. It gives bots an order to undo whatever I've done. But I'm going to show off the cut and paste stuff because we're right here, and it's the perfect time for it. So you just hit that button there. I don't know why I went into my menu. I'm looking for a blueprint thing. I'm like, I must find the blueprint to use the thing. No, it's all in the Quickbar now. So this is the cut tool. You use it like a blueprint thing, and when you use it, the bots will deconstruct something. Or if you use the copy tool, it will make a blueprint without removing it, and then you're in paste mode. You click and you paste it, and the bots rebuild it. So you can now cut and paste things, and it works on, again, why I keep going into the menu, it's a reflex. You can also use it on the ground. You can't seem to get the thing to work on tiles and entities at the same time, but you could just do them one by one, and it still kind of works. And then there's no power for these, because I didn't bring the substations with me. Yeah, that's now a super useful way of very quickly moving a structure. So if you build a factory element and it's off by one, you can now just cut, paste, done. Whereas previously you'd have to be like, okay, blueprint, deconstruct, place blueprint, delete blueprint again because I don't want it. And I think now there's also a clipboard that stores previously gathered stuff. I don't know how to cycle through it. There is a hotkey, but I forgot what it was. But apparently there is a hotkey for cycling through things in the clipboard. So if you cut and paste a bunch of stuff and then you accidentally delete something, you can grab it again, even if you've cut and paste something else since then. So super useful, and I think you can paste multiple times as well if you want to. Yeah, but then, let's, what do we... Yeah, so now I can undo all that work. And now, oh no, I've lost the blueprint, but I think maybe if I go to paste, yep, it's still held in the clipboard, and I think also there's a way to cycle through if you have multiple. So, that's awesome, and that's all these new features in the corner here. You can also open a little menu here and turn off some of the buttons and rearrange the positions of the buttons as you wish. I'm not going to do that because I'm getting used to them being in that position. But if you get rid of multiple, then that box gets smaller. Now you may be asking, why would you actually bother doing that? There's only this many buttons. Well, I'm betting it's for mods, because now mods could very easily add buttons to this little box here, instead of the usual thing where it's like, cram them up in this corner and stack them all in a row. There's now some buttons at the bottom here that can open the menus or do features of mods, and you can then choose which things do and do not feature in it. And I'm sure that the devs have already made it so that this box can get longer, because they're nice like that. They think of us. They think of I keep want to say moderators, mod makers. They keep thinking of mod makers and making features for them to make life easy for them. Modders, I guess, is the term. But yes, now let's get to the actual hotbar here and the inventory. You may have already noticed some significant differences here. But yeah, here it is. It looks like it's the same thing as before, but with a new look to it. One thing you might notice is there's a lot more trash slots than before. There are now 25, whereas previously the limit was 10. And there's a scroll bar. I don't know why, because you could easily fit them here. They should probably just make the box bigger. I guess it's for smaller resolutions, maybe, but yeah, I don't know why they didn't just make it a larger thing. And I'm totally going to use this for emergency storage before I've unlocked logistics, and also you can now toggle off your personal robot port, dump a bunch of stuff in here, and then you'll be able to ferry it back to your base with extra inventory capacity and stuff like that. Which is nice. Actually, I don't think you need to turn off the robot port thinking about it, but whatever. But yeah, I just treat these as more storage space early game, and then late game it's a way to clear out stuff when you've run out of storage space, so it always works. But yes, this is all fairly similar. There are more slots now. There are 2 more rows, so 20 more slots in the inventory than before. The reason being that there are no longer slots down here. They've changed how this works, and you might have noticed this already. But yeah, there are no longer... The toolbar is no longer its own little section of inventory. It now refers to the inventory. So they've given us some extra slots in our inventories to compensate for that. So now, what you do is you set up your toolbar with the icons, and then it shows how much you have in your inventory. So now it's showing like nearly 500 transport belts, whereas previously it would show a stack, and then I'd have to grab more stacks, and you can set filters and stuff like that. Now it's just sort of integrated in. The filter is the item, so that's how you grab them. You fill it with the things, and let's just demonstrate it because it's going to make it easier. So I can just be like, science packs, and now this is the science pack slot, and it shows that I have no science packs. One cool thing about this is that it now shows ghost images when you don't have an item, and if you click on it, you can place a ghost, which now also has its own custom symbol. Now, there's something to mention about this. You may have tried this and had it not work, because it's not actually enabled when you start the game up in 0.17. You have to go to your options and enable grabbing ghost images from the hotbar. It's not enabled by default. I don't know why, but you can, once you have that enabled, you can click on something in your hotbar, even if you don't have any of it. You can then order it placed, and if it can be, the bots will do that, which is fantastic. So there we go. How do I get rid of this? Q. Everything is Q, of course. And it just hops back into place. I mean, it never goes. It's now just the case that there's a hand there. And also, that affects the inventory as well. There was a previous issue where sometimes you would grab something out of your inventory, and then that slot would be filled by something else because of bots, and then you wouldn't be able to put the thing you were holding back. They fixed it. Now, if you grab a transport belt or whatever from your inventory, it reserves that slot with a hand symbol. So it's a useful way of making sure you don't end up with stuff stuck in your hand. It doesn't mean you technically have one less inventory capacity, because you can't pick something up and then deliberately have bots fill that slot with something, but it's fine. We've got extra trash slots now. We'll be okay. Let's see. What else do we have? I think we get to the main thing now, which is these numbers here. You might have noticed there's a weird thing going on here. 1274. This is the hotbar selecting thing. So I have 4. That's another thing. You might have noticed I have 4 of these. I set this in the options. Again, there is an option somewhere which is how many hotbars you display at once, and you can go from 1 to 4. And so you can now have more different things specified, and the sort of reason for this is that there are now in fact 10 hotbars, and you can choose which ones you're displaying. And I've realized a fantastic application of this. So now what it is that you hit one of these numbers, and it will open up the hotbar menu, and you can swap in a different hotbar. So now we've got number 6, and we'll sort it back to number 1, because number 1 is like my basic utility bar, because I've given them roles, and that is the fantastic thing that you can do with this feature. So, basically what I did was I thought, well, what you do with this is you set bars for different purposes, different roles in factory building, and so I started thinking of different roles you could have, and then I very quickly started running out of hotbars because there's so many cool things you can do with this. So here we have my late game utility bar, which is just belts, inserters, power poles, all the basic stuff, and then we have our sort of individual buildings bar, so mining drills, furnaces, assemblers, chests, turrets, basic stuff that I'm going to be building on a regular basis. And then I started getting into the fancy stuff, so we'll go up to just, I just worked through here the different things you can do. So I did my starting hotbar. So this is like all the basic stuff you're going to be having at the very beginning of the game. So we've got burner mining drills, basic furnaces, burner inserters, then we've got electric poles and like engines and stuff for setting up the first bits of power, all the initial belt components, wooden chests, and then we have our just after early game bar where we get to using proper electronic stuff. So now we have labs and defenses and the different kinds of assemblers, repair packs might come into play, electric mining drills, the next tier of furnace, and the better inserters and stuff like that. And then you sort of get into the specific roles in different areas. So now we have the oil hotbar. So I've just set this to have all things liquid based. So we've got like all the oil processing things and of course pipes, pumps, offshore pumps as well because I ran out of space in this bar for them, so we'll have them later on. And I put flamethrower turrets in because I ran out of things to put in this bar, and fluid wagons. And then we've got a rail hotbar that I set up. So it's got rails and signals and train stops and trains and a couple of power poles and things for setting up loading systems for trains. And then I've got my nuclear hotbar. So this is for the one time that I'm going to need all the various nuclear power things. So I put my reactor and my heat exchanger and my turbine and my heat pipes and my centrifuges. And so this is a hotbar that when I get to nuclear, I'm like, okay, it's time for it to shine. I swap in a hotbar 6, I do all the things, and then I get rid of it because I'm never going to need it again. Once I've set up my nuclear reactor, I'm never going to need to set one up again, and I can just copy and paste stuff probably, and never need to have anything in the bar at all. And then I've got my military hotbar, so this is for like setting up outposts and for combat-based things. Logistics hotbar for doing all the different chests when I'm setting up some like logistics-based production. And yeah, there's more things you can do with this. I just kept going. I just kept coming up with more things I can do. You can put your blueprint books in this as well. It's crazy. I was like, I could probably fill like 5 of these, and then I'm like, oh, I've only got 1 left. I'm just going to stop now. But yeah, you can fit these however you like, and then you can just swap them out as you need. So let's say I'm setting up a uranium outpost. We'll have some of this because it's got piping for that. Or actually, we'll probably just be like, if we're setting up a uranium outpost, we'll do the oil one and the train one. And it's like, okay, so we can set up the rails, we can set up the station, loading in the uranium, we've got the piping for sending out the petroleum gas, we've got the fluid wagon there to fit up with the other wagons, and then I've got all my standard stuff in the top 2 hotbars, which are going to be sort of my long-running hotbars with all the basic things in them. It's brilliant. I highly recommend immediately allowing 4 hotbars so that you can have like 2 core ones and then 2 swap-in ones, and it just makes it super easy. I'm very hyped about this right now. One of the things that's been annoying me about making this video and preparing for it is that I'm having to spend time setting up for this video when I'd rather just go play and see how this stuff works. But yeah, despite how ridiculously fast I'm talking here, we're still getting to like the longest length of an update video I've ever done. But let's keep moving through. I think that's all the inventory stuff done. There's a lot of new menus and things, like assemblers and things have the menu changed as well. Here's the new power menu, so it's looking very different now. I'm gonna have to get used to this. I'm pretty sure this graph is smaller than before, which is annoying. I liked it when it was bigger so you could more clearly see the differences between the lines and stuff. But it's now got individual values, so it's got the time on the bottom and the power on the top, and of course it's changing what the length of the scale is based on like the actual maximum at the time. And yeah, this is just a lot easier. There's this lovely like targeting thing, and there's lines in it so you can properly track the power stuff and more clearly see little changes in things and the time increments and stuff. And it's just easier to mouse over stuff and see exactly what it's doing now at any particular time. And also, there's more time things. So we've had 5 seconds, minute, 10 minute, 1 hour, 10 hour, 50 hours before, but now for those who play those really long games and get really frustrated when you get past 50 hours and you can't see the full history anymore, there's now a 250-hour one, which is only just filling in. It's taken a while for it to fill in because it's only started from when I updated, because I guess the data wasn't being stored previously. But it's only just starting to fill in, so you can just see it emerging here. But yeah, 250 hours and 1,000 hours where it hasn't even emerged yet. You can't even see the lines. So when you've got that super long-running factory, as long as you've gone less than 1,000 hours, you can look at the entire power history of that factory. And of course, the all menu is as before. They've also got, of course, the production menu has been updated in the same way. It's got 250 and the 1,000-hour ones and all that. When again, it's only just started to fill in. That's all the same for before as before. Also, I believe they've now, one minor tweak that I've just thought of, and I'm going to say it anyway, even though it doesn't really matter, is that they now include personal production and consumption in these charts, if that matters. I don't know why I even bothered telling you that as a minor thing. There are so many minor changes in this that I haven't even bothered to note down, and that are like that, and that are overshadowed by the various bigger things. Okay. That's all of that stuff done. Let's go down to, I think we'll go over here. There's the recipe changes. We'll start with the science, actually. Let's get the science out of the way. So, you all know the science packs. It's the same ones as before, but they've changed how they work. The first thing is that they've changed the names. So if we hop to the map here, I made a little nice indicator here for the new names of them. So previously, not all of them were named. You just had red and green and blue. And then these were production and high-tech, and that was military, and that was space. Now they've standardized it, now they all have names, and they've changed the exact names to sort of better fit the roles they're trying to build for them. They're once again trying to sort of split the roles and make it so that there are reasons to go one direction or another, and I think they're doing a good job of that. They've made things a lot more separate now with the roles that the science packs cover. So the basic one is called automation, which of course it's the basis of Factorio. It's where you get started. And then you get to logistics, where now you're expanding your production and getting to having things connecting, and you've got to have throughput things to worry about and that sort of thing. And they're the tier 1 sciences. And then we have the tier 2 sciences, military and chemical. And this is where you can just really go whichever direction you want. And this was the case before, but it's even more so now. Previously, you would ultimately need military science to get the rockets. I don't think you do anymore, because I think previously you had to research like rocket launching speed and keep ramping that up till a certain level, and then you could launch space rockets, which I found quite funny and a little bit silly. They've got rid of that now. You don't need to do that research to be able to launch rockets. So I think maybe you can play the entire game and complete it without ever doing any military science now, which is neat. That's good. So if you're playing in peaceful mode, you can just skip it. You don't have to worry about it. At least until you get to like the infinite researches, where I think maybe it starts to... No, I think even then it still only counts for the military infinite researches. And you have chemical, and that makes a lot of sense because blue science is all about oil and the various oil products. So that was just an obvious choice for that. That is when you're getting into all the oil stuff. And of course you'll have to have done this before you get to the later tiers, but you can skip military. You don't have to do it. And then we get to the Tier 3 Science Packed Production and Utility, and they've really tried to split these and give them separate roles. And of course space is the same as before. You get that when you launch the rocket. But let's go to the science menu and we can see. So this has all been changed as well. Once again, the new UI, and it's all there's all the details bar here, and then you have this big section here. I mean, some of its previous features you've seen before, but they've added more little convenient bits to it. I think these numbers might be new. I definitely haven't noticed these before, but maybe it's just the visual change of them. But yeah, here we have all the infinite researches that I haven't got to yet. I've done some of these, but we've done 54 of the mining productivity ones. But yeah, I completed all the new researches that they added. I had to cheat for them though, because I can't do research anymore because they've changed a bunch of the recipes, which is what we're going to get into in a second. But we'll look at the specific roles of the purple and the yellow science packs. So production science is specifically all about modules and about logistics stuff. So the final logistics upgrade is here. Final automation upgrade is here. Covarex is here as well, and enrichments. All the uranium stuff, the late game uranium stuff is production, and all the module stuff, and it's kept more separate than before. Previously, I think One of the modules still used high-tech science, which is now utility science. And they've changed that now so that they're more discrete. And then for the high-tech science, it's all about logistics, power suit stuff, and also the rocketry thing. So rocket control unit is here, and are the others here? I don't actually see them. Where's rocket fuel and the other one? Low density structure is now by the way, it's a separate research now. That's a new thing. And it's only blue science, and rocket fuel is now super early on. So it's sort of like you progress through these, and rocket control units are the final one before you actually get to launching. You've already got the other stuff kind of going. We'll get into a bit more of that in a minute. But yeah, it's all about logistics and the final stages of rocketry, and also where the military tech goes. So there's no military stuff really in the purple side of things. It's all in the utility science pack side of things. And then you get to the last few ones which use both, and that's sort of like the final stages of the multi-stage thing. So there's logistics and other stuff here. It's sort of a mix here. More focused on logistics, but this is like later on in the sequence. So earlier on, you don't have the purple, and it's like for the final step, you need the purple science packs. And then finally, you need the two of them for the rocket silo. And the only research, apart from the infinite ones, that needs all 6 science packs before space science is the atomic bomb. None of the others need it. Because they, like, if they have production science and utility, they don't have military, and vice versa. It's kind of like that before, but I think they've made it more specific again. And then there's very few researchers here that use everything. So, like, production is only used in mining productivity, follower robot count, and worker robot speed in the infinite researches. So that's another way that they've separated them. Of production science stays specific to production, mining, and robots. And then high tech is, I think, utility is in everything towards the end. So that's sort of like the core science pack, whereas productivity is like the military science pack of the next tier. Of you could just forget that and just do high tech and still get most things done, but at the end of the day, you probably want to bring some of it in to finish things off. So we'll get into the new recipes for that in a minute. Let's first do the new researches. I've got a whole page for this. Mainly because there's just a couple of interesting numbers here. So they've overhauled military science specifically. Not as in the science packs, as in the researches. Because previously, one of the things that I was always finding when playing Factorio and trying to do a complete research run is that I spent a lot of time just doing military science filler. Just at the end of everything else being like, okay, now's the part where we just dump science packs into researching rocket speed and flamethrower damage and stuff when I don't actually really care about them. And the devs realized that they were kind of a little bit pointless in a way. And it was just lots of busy work to fill in all these different researches, so they overhauled it, and they got rid of a bunch and changed a bunch more and added a few in, and so, in total, 56 different technologies have been removed from the game. So, most of those are damage and speed technologies of various kinds. I didn't bother noting down the specifics because it's not that important. And then there was one that was different, which was the flying tech has been removed, so that's just in the various... They've done a lot of rearranging of the prerequisites and like how the researches fit together that we'll see probably just in play. It's like they didn't bother listing them in the change log, and that makes sense. There's a lot to get through there. And it's all minor things. But they got rid of the flying tech, so that's probably just a casualty of them rearranging things, that tech no longer made sense. But that is one of the 56 techs removed. The other 55 are all rocket speeds and bullet speeds and stuff because they've been condensed. And to that end, 31 other techs have been edited. So it's actually more like 87 techs have been removed because there's been some changes made to the remaining military techs, and they've all been condensed. So you can see the examples here. We have physical projectile damage instead of what was previously the case of bullet damage and turret damage and cannon shell damage, and probably something else as well, because there's 4 of these. What do we got? Cannon shells, shotgun shells, gun turret, bullet damage. Previously, these were all separate chains, and they're like, why did we do that? What was the point of that? And so they've made it so that there's now one research, which is damage for all projectile-based weapons. And the interesting thing about it, I believe, is if you go to the beginning... Okay, that was too far. Oh, hello. Is that right? Oh, yeah, that is right. Yeah, shooting speed is still a separate thing. I need to go back to this. Here we go. So at the beginning, it's not got all of them. It's got bullets, gun turrets, and shotgun shells. And then as we progress down, it goes to having cannon shells. So they get added into the mix. So it's a sort of progression thing of, as was the case previously, as you get to higher techs, you start upgrading higher tech projectiles. So that's the point where you integrate in the chemical sciences when it starts to affect cannon shells as well, and they've done that with the other ones as well. So we've got like energy weapons, and I guess this starts with just like lasers. Yeah, so it's just laser turret damage, and then as we progress through, it gets to laser turrets and combat robots, and then if we carry on, it gets to the two different kinds of damage. So I guess there's two different kinds of robot damage. That might be new. They have done some laser things, but I think there's a visual change mainly is what they've done with that. And yeah, so that's sort of how it works, and it continues with this of like, if we have explosives, it starts as just grenades, and then mines get added in, and then rockets get added in. And I like it. I like how that works, because it's like, why have them as separate techs? Just condense them, just make them into one big tech, and then make it more expensive if you need to. And so that's what they've done. And so 31 techs have been retained, but they've had other techs collapsed into them. And yeah, that's all of the damage and speed ones, the ones that have been edited. And then 23 new techs have been added as well. So overall we've got less, but there've been a couple of new things added in the production side of things as well. So there are now individual technologies for all the science packs. So you can see that logistics science has a technology and military science has one. And all of them do, even up to space science packs. I don't know why it's a separate thing. I think it's because now, to complete the game, you just have to launch the rocket silo. You don't have to, launch a rocket from the silo. You don't have to put a satellite in it. So you can unlock this later, put the satellite in it, and then you get the space science packs, and then so on and so forth. So it's a new game plus thing more clearly. You don't need the satellite. It was a problem before that people would often launch the rocket without the satellite it because they didn't realize it needed it. And then they would end up not having counted as one. So they just made it count as winning because it's an easy thing to forget. It's not clear. So they fixed that. Belt immunity is in here as a tech somewhere. Pretty early on. I mean, it's still, you need a parachute for it, but you can put it in like your modular armor pretty early on and then be just straight up immune to belts because it doesn't seem to drain power. I imagine that it has some sort of power usage, but like maybe early game you need to make sure you've got enough solar panels, but it's probably not a critical thing. Yeah, that's nice and convenient. Also, there's now, as mentioned before, there is a steel axe tech, so I guess as an homage to the steel axe, they've made it the icon, though it's a really low res icon. I guess they just use the icon they have, and it's an old one where they were in lower resolution. So they're going to need to update that to make it a little bit nicer looking, because it's a bit horrible right now. But there you go. The steel axe is still in the game, just as an upgrade to your ability to mine now. How much faster does it make you? Does it say? Yep, 100% faster. It doubles your mining speed, which I think is what the pickaxe did before. There's now a separate tech for inserters. A super early game one, so it's literally 15 science packs, or no, 15 seconds, 30 science packs even, that unlocks fast and filter inserters at the same time, which is interesting. Filter inserters have always been unlocked really early, to my mind. It's a bit weird. I feel like they should come along later, but you get them immediately and then don't use them for ages because you don't need them, especially with filters on splitters. Why would you bother until late game when there might be specific needs for it? Very strange. I don't know why they do that, but they've continued to do it. It's fine. Lubricants now has its own tech, and that's just sort of some of the busy work things of rearranging how some of the stuff works. Uranium processing is now a separate tech from the actual nuclear power, so you can now like do this first, so you can start processing uranium earlier on and have the fuel cells ready, and then do nuclear power later. I guess it's a way of going about it, and it's a lot cheaper, so you can just do that, and then while you're working your way through nuclear power, you can be already preparing the fuel for it. And indeed, that's the order that they go, it seems. Let's see, there's also... oh yes, as seen before, the individual rocket components now have their own separate techs, and I think the reason for this is that they've all got their own applications, well, except for rocket control units. They all have their own applications in the game. Rocket fuel is obvious of being a superior fuel to coal and solid fuel, but low-density structure has been given a larger role in the game. We'll get to that in a little bit, though, because we don't want to divert in too many different directions at once. But there's not too much left. One last thing is there's more trash slots. You've seen that as well. There's now 5 researches for it, obviously, for the 5 different rows. And finally, there's been a upgrade chain added for explosive damage, which is a little bit weird because presumably this already existed in one form, but I'm guessing they deleted the ones that existed and then just made a new one, so it's basically like a tech has been replaced. And maybe there wasn't explosive damage before. No, there was grenade damage, so yeah, they just deleted and then made a new one instead of swapping one over like they did with the rest. But that is all the researches, that is all the new types of signs. So there's less overall, but all the ones that are gone are ones that are good to be gone. There's just too much, there was too many military things, they've just condensed it down, made it simpler, which is very nice. Oh, there is one other feature, I don't think I can show you it here, because I don't think it's enabled. Because you have to enable it at map generation, which is a whole other thing. This is a long video. You know how long it is. I don't know yet. We're gonna see how it goes. I'm trying to get through it quickly, but there's so much. Okay, so one thing you can do now is you can queue technologies, and I don't think it allows us here, unfortunately. So I'm not even allowed to select start research. But if I click this, yeah, it doesn't work. It just swaps it out. But you can now, in certain situations, queue up science, which is fantastic. It's really, really nice because when you're blasting through certain sciences or you want to walk away from the PC and leave your factory running, you can now just queue up a bunch of research and it'll just work its way through it. And it even, when queuing up, accounts for prerequisites. Like if you order something researched, you can then later in the queue order things that unlocks in the sequence. So you could technically queue up the entirety of the research tree in the order that you want to have it, and then you never have to touch it again. You just do the research and work your way through it, which is brilliant. But there's a weird thing about it where I think by default maps only allow queuing after you've completed the game, so after you've launched a rocket, but in map generation you can switch it to be never allowed or always allowed. And I don't know why you would just switch it to always allowed, because it's literally just a convenience feature. So, bear in mind when generating a map, set it so that you can queue up science, and then you can do that. You can just work your way down the list and order it all, and it'll just go. And you can focus on building your factory and not have to worry about it unless you want to change things around for some reason. So there we go. That is all the tech stuff done. And you can see, like, I'm remembering things that are, there's so many different random facts, but I just keep going, oh yeah, there's one other thing that I forgot about. Oh dear, it's crazy. So, new recipes, which is still in the region of science. So, red science packs, exactly the same. Green science packs, exactly the same, in terms of time and items required. But they've changed something about the timings. Let's do the time first. So, previously, it was the case that 10 seconds for 2 military science packs, but for these, it was different. It was 12 seconds for a chemical science pack. It is now 24 seconds for 2 chemical science packs. They basically standardized it, so the number of packs produced each time basically reflects the tier. So tier 2, you always produce them in 2s, and it's the same for tier 3. You now make them 3 at once, 3 production science packs per craft, and 3 utility science packs per craft, and they take 21 seconds, whereas previously they took 14 seconds to make 2. So all the timings are exactly the same, but the actual requirements are different from military science onwards. They've all been changed. So, starting with military, it starts the same. Piercing round magazine, grenade, that's all the same, but then it requires 2 walls as the third product. Previously it was a turret, and they sorted out for walls, and I like this change because the issue with the turrets was that you just needed a lot of throughput for it. You just had to, like, be able to run copper and iron fast enough at the belts, and I always had trouble keeping up with military science production when it was running, and then it would be intermittent anyway, so half the time it would be shut down, and the other half the time it wouldn't be able to run quick enough. Just because of, like, belt throughput issues and things like that, and there not being enough iron to go round between military and the rest of the factory. It really hogged resources. So now they've swapped it for walls, and I really like that because it means that stone is a requirement earlier on in the game, and comes in at the same time as coal. So this is basically like, this is the pre-oil like summary homework. This is like, okay, let's see if you've got the hang of everything. And so the basic components, you can see them listed there: copper, iron, coal, stone. Simple. And then also steel, just to show that you're doing some fancier production with it, and also it's stone brick specifically. So I like that. It's basically, when you get some military science, it's like, okay, here's everything I've learned. Here's all the different things that I need, and it brings stone onto the main bus sooner, and means it's more likely that you'll remember to leave a space for it, and make sure you can fit that into your plans. And yeah, the ratio's the same. It's 2 walls, which is fine. It's only 10 bricks. That's not too bad. Though I think that means it's 20 stone, so you need a little bit of a throughput for it, but then you don't need stone for many other things, so it works out pretty okay. Then we get to the chemical science packs. So I've got to consult what it used to be here. So this is all a little bit weird because it's changed from producing 1 to 2, so all the numbers are off. So previously it took 1 engine, now it takes 2 to make 2, so that's the same. Previously it used 1 advanced circuit to make 1, now it uses 3 to make 2, so there's a slightly higher requirement of advanced circuits. You need a little bit more plastic and copper and stuff going on to make that work. And then it used to require a mining drill, and again, this is a similar thing to the military science packs, is that mining drills were a pain because it was just a throughput sink. It just needed lots of iron being chucked at it, once again, lots of circuits, lots of gears to be able to keep up with demands. Now that's gone, and instead you need solid fuel, which is nice, because I think solid fuel isn't needed till you're making rockets, technically. You don't need it until you're making rocket fuel out of the solid fuel. Now they're making it so that you have to integrate it into your factory, have it on a line in the main bus again. And it's basically, it's another thing of, show us what you've learned. You've developed your oil, now show us how you're making it work. So it's not just plastic, you're also doing solid fuel made of the heavy or the light oil. By the way, always make it out of light oil. It's better value that way than just making it out of heavy oil. You get literally more solid fuel out of it. Random Bentham tip in the middle of the video for you. So yeah, now it's more about the oil stuff. And being like, okay, you've made oil, this is the proof that you can maintain your oil production. And your reward for this is being able to actually crack your oil fractions and have that work. And yeah, it's only 1 solid fuel, so it's really low requirements, which is nice and convenient. You're not going to actually need much going in, just got to show that you can produce some and have it ready. And moving on to production science packs. So, this has been changed quite a bit. Originally, it required 1 furnace and 1 electric engine to make 2 of them. Now you're making 3. It's still 1 electric furnace, so it's now a little bit cheaper because it's only the one furnace making 3 instead of 1 making 2. The electric engine's gone, and in its place are productivity modules and rails, which is an interesting combination. It's a demonstration of production. It's like, okay, here are production elements. Rails are about transport and logistics and that side of things, and then the furnaces are obviously a production thing, and productivity, well, it's in the name. So it's clearly like, these are the things that epitomize production, and so you need to show that you can make these to produce this science pack. So the productivity module makes sense. We've seen modules in science production before, so it's an obvious thing. It's the same basic thing, some circuits, some advanced circuits, a little bit of everything. And then the rails are the thing that interests me, and I'm not sure about this because you just heard me complain about resource sinks in previous science packs, and now we're needing 10 rails per science pack for production science, which is just going to be a ton of iron and also a little bit of steel, and it's stone as well. So it's a good, like, all-round combination of various different things, but it's a whole lot of iron having to be dumped into it to make it go. I forget what a rail requires now, actually. What's the recipe for rails? Yeah, so it's 1 steel, 1 stone, 1 iron stick to make 2 of them, so it's not too bad. I guess you don't need a ton of stuff. The steel is the main thing, really. But also, it is iron sticks, so I guess now iron sticks maybe... They're trying to make them relevant, and they're kind of succeeding. But yeah, you gotta hammer out a lot of those to keep that going, but it's not the worst. Like, you make 2 at a time, the requirements for each individual craft aren't a lot, it just adds up, so... We'll see. It's 1 per 10. I guess it's okay. I'm coming round to it as the seconds pass. But we'll see how it goes when we actually build factories with it. And then finally the utility science pack. I don't know why I didn't just do this from the menu to start with, it's easier. But yes, this one used to be 3 processing units to make, 3 processing units, a speed module, and a battery, and 30 copper cables to make 2. So now it is 2 processing units to make 3, so that's a definite improvement from 3 to 2 to 2 to 3. That's a hard sentence to say. And they've got rid of the processing units, that's the one thing they haven't got rid of. They got rid of the batteries, the speed modules, and the cables, because this is about utility. This is about sort of high-tech, helpful stuff, and so it's flying robot frames, which makes a lot of sense. It's like, this is the logistics science pack, so it's like, show me that you're making bots, or that you can, and then you can make this science pack, so flying robot frames. Gonna be a nightmare, though, because I think these things take forever to make. At 20 seconds per. So for every one of these, every assembler making you a utility science pack, you're gonna need a corresponding assembler making a flying robot frame, and they have a few different things. This is mainly a challenge of fitting belts in amongst each other. There's a lot of different belts that have to come together to make this work. Unless you just put flying robot frames on the main bus, maybe we should do that at that point. They're now needed for combat drones, I believe. Let me have a look. Yeah, they're now needed for the basic defender capsule, so there's more things that require them at this stage. Might justify like half a belt on the main bus or something to just have them made somewhere else. Yeah, now requires one of those, and the low density structure is a thing, because low density structure, as I was hinting at before, is playing a larger role now. It is now required in quite a few late game items. I'm not even sure what they all are. I don't know if the changelog listed them all, and I may have just forgotten to make note of it, but now there's a lot of like parachute things that require low density structure, and like super late game things that require it. So again, this is the high tech stuff, this is the extra fancy stuff tier. You should be making low density structure because the bunch of things that use it now, not just rockets, and so that makes sense as epitomizing the utility science pack. And it's only 1 per science pack, which isn't terrible, but there's been a change to these. I guess this is us done with science packs now. Space science is, of course, the same as before. Rocket goes up, and then 1,000 science packs comes down. That's all the same as before. But yeah, let's move on to the low density structure, because they've changed the recipe for it. So the old recipe is, let me find this in my notes. The old recipe was 10 steel, 5 copper, and 5 plastic. So very heavy on the steel, which was definitely a problem for it. The other things aren't too bad. They've now changed it to 2 steel, 20 copper, and 5 plastic. So the plastic's the same, steel much less, copper much, much more. So this is a huge copper sink, which is weird considering the game already has plenty of those in the form of all the late game circuit stuff. You're already dumping tons of copper into making all the tiers of circuits, and now it's wanting you to dump a bunch into making low density structure as well. You need it for science packs and a couple of other things. Let's have a look in like the parachute area. Yeah, so you need it for like the power armor. What else? It might not be that there's any like regularly produced stuff, but like Energy Shield Mark II needs it, Fusion Reactor needs it, batteries need it. Yeah, okay, they just basically, low density structure is now the power suit item. It is the basic thing for all the higher tier things. So like, you can make a power suit without it, but it'll be worse. If you build a load of low density structure, you can get all the cool stuff. That's basically the idea. So, it's going to be interesting how that goes. I think the only regular uses of it are the rocket and utility science, but still, that's a lot of copper to be dumping into that system, so maybe balance your factories even more towards copper than before. I already usually favor copper and have it as like a 3-to-2 ratio of copper to iron. I may need to ramp it up. Maybe there's more use of iron as well. I guess the other science packs have more iron-based things in the form of rails, but then less in the form of the stuff for the earlier science packs. This is one of those things where you're just going to have to see how the factory shapes out. You're just going to have to build one and see what is needed, and then adjust accordingly. It is going to be interesting. And so yeah, all your factories going to have to be rebuilt, or you're just going to have to start again, because all the science packs beyond these two have completely changed. I had to cheat to get the researches done here, because I was never going to manage it with by retrofitting the factory I've got right now. Especially considering I would have to step-by-step work through the science packs, because I'd have to unlock each research by having managed to get the previous ones working right. Okay, we're almost through everything at this stage, I think. I think I'm gonna do a fade out at this stage, and we'll come back to anything that I have missed, and then we'll go over and have a look at biters and how they look now, and then go have a look at the map generation settings, which have been completely overhauled like so many other things. This is such a long video. I'll see you in a minute. And we're back, and we've only moved a few meters, really, because I realized that one of the things that I was going to talk about is actually right here. But there's just so much going on and so overwhelming that I completely missed that I placed down some buildings here to remind me of a particular feature, but I've had some time to rest my voice at the very least and check what else I want to tell you about, so it works out. So one of the changes that they've made is a relatively minor one, but it's an interesting one to look at, and also there's a bit of a weirdness with it that I wanted to point out, which is catalysts. So this is a thing that's kind of existed previously in the game, where there are processes that require something to go in, but then that something isn't actually used up and remains in the output. And so these are the two examples, coal liquefaction, oil, and uranium processing, the Coverix enrichment process of uranium processing. So the way that the recipes work, we can have a look at them, is that you put in, for the oil one, 25 heavy oil, 10 coal, 50 steam. You get out 10 petroleum gas, 20 light oil, and 90 heavy oil. They've changed these ratios. They've got less light oil, less petroleum gas, but more heavy oil in the output than before. But the key thing is that heavy oil comes in and heavy oil goes out, which is weird. So this means that 25 of it doesn't actually do anything, and then the result makes an extra 65 basically, and so the 25 can be considered a catalyst, and previously this wasn't an actual like mechanical thing in the game, and there was a key issue with this, which was productivity, because with productivity it means that every now and then you get an extra set of products, and if there's a recipe where the balancing is that you need to have that catalyst to hand, and you don't then do anything about it, then the productivity modules will allow kind of ridiculous amounts of the product to be made, because you're essentially duplicating the catalyst every time the productivity bar fills. Now, with the oil refinery, they didn't bother doing anything about this as far as I'm aware previously. They just made it so that you could put productivity modules in, and if you did, then well done, you get a bunch of extra heavy oil. It's not a game-breaking thing, because you were putting in 25 and getting out, I think, like 60 before, so it was like every now and then you would get an extra 60, you'd get an extra 35, and then also 25, or whatever the numbers were. I think they were all different. And you could do that, and you could have productivity up to 15%, I think, so it wasn't a huge thing. So they just allowed it, and it just meant that you could get a little bit more out of your coal liquefaction. It was always a good idea to put productivity modules in, because it was just extra kind of free heavy oil. But you were already getting a bunch of extra heavy oil per craft anyway, so it didn't matter. The different one, the other one, Coverix enrichment, was much more of a significant thing, because this is one where the catalyst is designed to sort of hold you back. It's a big major limitation of uranium processing, and you're supposed to really have to struggle to get extra uranium-235, the rare one. So with this recipe, it's 40-235 going in, and 41 comes out. So this whole process takes a minute, and you need to have 40 to start with, and then it makes 1. And then also, you put in 5 uranium-238, and you get out 2. So the catalyst here is 40 uranium-235, and also, as people probably often forget, there's also a catalyst of 2 uranium-238. It's just a little bit weird because there's more uranium-238, but some of it gets used, but some of it is just staying there and then comes out of the process at the end. Ultimately, you're basically turning 3 uranium-238 into 1 uranium-235 while having a catalyst of 40 of one and 2 of the other on top of everything else. You've got to have some spare. It's fine with uranium-238, that stuff's 10 a penny. There's too much of that. That's the whole point of uranium, is that there's too much 238, and you've always got tons of chests full of the stuff trying to turn it into 235. But you've got to build up that catalyst at the start, and that's sort of the challenge of it. But that's not the key thing. The key thing is that if you put productivity modules in this, level 3s, you get 10%, I think. Oh, no, it might be 20%, actually. I might be wrong, and it's 30% you can get with that, and 20 you can get with this. And what that means is every 5 operations of the centrifuge, you would then get an extra 41 uranium-235, meaning that instead of turning 3 uranium-238 into, well, I guess across 5 crafts, instead of turning 15 238 into 5 235, you turn 15 238 into 46, in fact. Which would break it. That would break the process. It would ruin the point of it, and you'd get insane amounts of uranium out of the deal. And I think, in fact, you would be able to just generate infinite uranium by turning the fuel cells into spare 235. I think that might be enough. It doesn't matter though. It's another thing. They never allowed it because they realized it would be broken, or they allowed it for one update and then hot fixed it out because they realized it was a problem. What they've now done is they've made it so that catalysts are a separate thing, referred to in some hidden code. You can't see it. There's no UI element of it, which to me is a shame. I kind of like the idea that there would be like a catalyst box, like you would have a specific box you would put the 40 uranium-235 in, and from then on the process would operate, but instead they made it so that it's a sort of secret calculation made of, like, when you set off the process, the game recognizes that there is a catalyst involved, and then balances for that when you put productivity modules in. So this affects both buildings. Even though productivity was allowed in this one anyway, they've made it so that it accounts for the catalyst, and they've now made it so that you can use productivity in a centrifuge because it accounts for the catalyst. So the idea is that when the productivity bar fills up, instead of producing the actual product, it produces the products minus the requirements, basically. It accounts for the catalyst. I mean, I don't know if there's a specific catalyst function, or whether it simply calculates that a catalyst exists by seeing that something is in the products and the materials. But either way, it takes away the 40 from the 41, so when the productivity bar fills, you get 1 uranium-235. But I noticed something weird. I don't know if this is a glitch, but I feel like maybe it is, or maybe the devs didn't know what to do and just filled in a box somewhere. But as well, when the productivity bar fills, as well as getting 1 uranium-235, you get 1 uranium-238. And I don't know why, and it doesn't really make sense. Either it should produce 2 or none. And it's weird that it would produce 1. Technically, though, it should produce -3 if it's a simple, just like minusing the products and things, because 5 is going in and only 2 is coming out. And so if it's taking it away like it is with the 235, it should come up with -3, and it might be defaulting to a 1 because it doesn't know what else to do, or maybe the devs specified 1 because they wanted to have some value when they thought, hey, let's give them an extra 238. I don't know, but I'm fascinated by this, and I'm wondering why it's the case. Whether it's a glitch and it's a -3 that's becoming a 1, or whether it's just a 1 that's been filled in. But yeah, I don't think it was properly considered when they were coming up with it what would happen to the 238, because it's a sort of weird reverse catalyst thing where there's less of it at the end of the process, but there's still some left. It's weird how it works. But yeah, that's just me going off on a weird tangent again about things, and I really shouldn't be, considering how long this video is already. I should remember that every minute that I spend talking here is 4 minutes that I have to stay awake for while I wait for the thing to process and upload. So I'm only causing myself trouble here. I could have made a short video, but I wanted to do an in-depth look at everything, as you might have noticed by now. So yeah, what happens over on here, on this end of the process, is that when the productivity bar fills, instead of getting 90 heavy oil, you get 65 heavy oil, and you also get the 20 light oil and the 10 petroleum gas. So it basically just takes away the inputs from the outputs and calculates that, and basically makes it so you can't break that system. And I think this now allows, again, modders to be able to do cool stuff with catalysts and have recipes with that you can have productivity for that don't break the game, which is nice. So that is that, and there's a couple other things that I forgot to go through that I'm now going to cover as well. Let's see what's on my list. Oh, here's a cool thing. Here's a feature in multiplayer. If you go to the map and you hit Control, Alt, and click, it pings a spot on the map, and it pings it for everyone, and it shows the the coordinates you pinged it, and who pinged it, and basically it's just super convenient. And so it's a way of alerting your friends in a game to a particular place. Just super nice feature to have. Very, very simple and easy. Another thing, which is a minor sort of weird thing, is that fluids can't mix anymore. This was a thing that you would occasionally have in the past where you would accidentally hook up your pipes wrong, and the wrong fluid would go into a pipe and ruin things and block everything up. They've fixed that now, but I can't actually remember how they fixed it, and I didn't have time to look it up because I'd already been spending hours trawling through the changelog and things, but they've made it so that that's another thing. I think they didn't mention it specifically. I'd have to go find the Factorio Friday facts about it from at some point in the past 14 months. But they made it so that you can't have that mistake now. It's either that liquids now reserve a pipe, so once a liquid has gone through a pipe, the pipe can only take that liquid, or something else that I can't remember. Had another thing that it could be. But yeah, that's just a sort of quality of life thing of you're less likely to accidentally mix up things in liquid pipes now when you're working with complicated oil setups. Another thing is with radars. This is something that this is one of those features where you like whenever it was a problem, I would always think, oh, this is annoying, but I never thought I should tell the devs this is annoying because it was an easy fix really. Which is radars. If you pick a radar up and you have the minimap open, which I don't because I thought that for sleekness and presentation I would switch it off, and it doesn't work in here, so we're gonna have to go to the options. Okay, settings, interface, show minimap, switch that back on. And by the way, while we're here, active quick bars, I've just put that up to 4. Why would you ever have it? I want 4 quick bars. It's so convenient. It's so nice. And there's also train visualization lens, which is I think that's when you're placing a station, it'll show it's a little visual thing of showing how far, like where the wagons will go, and I think it's just a setting for how many wagons it will demonstrate the location for, and why not just crank that up to max and get a proper view of however long a train you want. Again, it's a no-brainer to me of just put that up to max, why not? Oh, and there's the pick ghost item if no items are available. Tick that because it just makes it easier. Then you can click on a ghost and you can place a ghost. We've been through this. There's where the setting is. But yeah, that's all that stuff there. Confirm. And back to this. Okay, so now what you can see is that while I'm holding this radar, and if we put this away, then it's gone. But if we pick up the radar, it shows radar coverage of all radars that currently exist, and overlaid is the coverage of this radar, meaning I can move around the map and work out exactly where this radar needs to go to not waste space and completely have coverage of a separate area, which is brilliant. Super convenient for when you're placing a big network of outposts in the wilderness, so that you just have coverage of a larger area, so that you can always see what's happening even far in the wilderness. You can just easily put together a grid, and it's just so easy now to place it exactly where it goes. And I imagine it also works for blueprints containing radars, and so you can make a little outpost blueprint that you can plonk down in various places. What else do we have? Oh, there's also that Z drops things into entities now, apparently. I haven't actually tried this. I really probably should have tested this beforehand, but if I grab this and I hit Z, yep. So now you can use Z to put one of an item into an entity, as well as putting them on the ground and on belts. So another little quality of life thing that's just like, it might come up one time where you'll want to drop one of a thing into something, or something like that. And the one last thing is a change to a recipe that I forgot to mention earlier, which is it's a minor thing, but its positioning is interesting, and it might change how the gameplay works a little bit, which is that level 2 assemblers now require steel to make. Previously it was just basically the same as the level 1, but more. It was circuits and gears and plates, I think, and so it was super easy to do. Now they made it so it requires steel, because I imagine what a lot of people do is that they make the level 1 assembler, and then they make science packs, they research level 2 assemblers, and then they never use level 1s again. I think that often happens. I do that all the time. Now they're making it so that you actually have to work a little bit to get to the level 2 assemblers, because you need steel. It's a minor thing. You get steel really early on, but it means that for a little bit longer you've got to work with the level 1 assemblers before you're able to make that upgrade. And so, like, when a change affects like the very early game, it can sort of have ripples, and it's important, and I don't know. In the early games, everything is a much smaller scale, so small changes make a bigger difference, I think is what I'm trying to get at. But that is everything I have down on my notebook of important things that I can demonstrate here. There are two last things to do. That is, have a look at the new biter stuff, because they've changed all of that, and have a look at the map generation, because they've also completely changed all of that. So, I will join you next to a biter base. And here we are at a little outpost that I have built far out in the wilderness north of the base, because there is something that is only going to spawn in newly explored territory in 0.17. Also, that's switched off. Why is that switched off? Oh, it isn't. I just don't have any. I've switched to a power suit that has lots of defensive stuff, because I'm going to need it. Quite honestly. I don't know if there's been a rebuild. Well, yeah, there have been edits to how the biters work, and maybe they're stronger than before. It's hard to say. In a certain way, they definitely are, as you'll see. But yeah, it seems like you have to be a little bit more careful with biters, but maybe that I haven't had much in the way of interactions with them yet. I could be wrong. But let's go have a look at this base over here, because it's got all the new stuff. And here it is. These are the new biters, the new spitters, the new bases, and the new worms. It's all new. Let's have a good zoom in here. Sorry if you're squeamish. But yeah, here are the biters. There's a behemoth, and these are supposed to be sort of like horrible, creepy, crawly, spidery things. They've got big, long legs now, and horrible, mandibly things, and black eyes and stuff. I tried to find some basic ones here, but I don't think they're around. I don't think this base can spawn anything less than a medium biter at this stage, so can't find any of the tiny ones. But there we go. That's what they look like, and when they crawl around, it's disgusting. There's supposed to be this element of cuteness to it, apparently, and I kind of see what they're getting at, but it's mostly creepy. It's mostly unsettling, and look at them crawling all over the screen. You're probably getting itchy now and things like that. It's not nice. And then we have the spitters, and these are sort of more like centipede sort of things with lots of little legs, and their walking animation's quite cool. Let's see if we can spot one trundling about somewhere. There we go, this guy's going. You can see they've got this cool pattern to how the legs move. That's a realistic thing of like the rolling layers of moving legs. Here we go. Some of the ones out in the on the edges are a bit more active. Yes, that's what they look like, and of course when they attack they stand up and rear their heads, and you get to see a bit of that, so we'll see if we can do that as well. We are going to attack this base to get a proper look at it. Here's the bases. These, I'm not sure if these have changed or not. It's a very similar style at the very least. They might have updated these previously. The same basic thing of the horrible pulsating things, and I like how it sort of goes into the ground, and it probably looks like it's sort of burrowed in and has roots and things. And then we have the worms, and these probably look like they're just in pits in the ground. They've got rid of like the sort of cartoony molehill thing, and it's literally just now just a hole. There's just missing ground with sort of jagged edges to it. I like how they've got like two different idle animations of like slow breathing and fast breathing. That's a little bit weird. And yeah, somewhere around here is... There it is. That is the behemoth worm. That's the new thing. I'm a little bit confused about it, because apparently all their stats as listed on the thing on the side are the same as a large worm. I've got to assume that the damage they deal is higher, but they are not more durable. Hard to say, but presumably they hurt more, but they have the same amount of health, because big worms already have a lot of health. I don't know. A little bit strange, but unless they've just forgotten to update the stats. These things are presumably a lot more painful to be shot by. And there's a couple of these in here. So yeah, I had to venture out quite far to newly spawned land so that it would actually spawn the behemoth worms. Of course, I think colonizing biters can spawn them as well, but I'd have to wait for that to happen, and I'd rather just go out and find some. So I'm going to approach them now, carefully, and immediately some of them deploy. They already know I'm close. They deploy very early on, ready to attack. So now we can see them deployed, and they've got a sort of roaring animation going on, and they've got the different breathing speeds again. So here's all the behemoths. They're all hiding at the bottom here. And yeah, they're disgusting. They're like the things in the King Kong movie, whichever one. I lose track. There's too many King Kong movies. The one with the worms. Eating people's heads and all that stuff. It's horrible. So yeah, let's go and try and fight these. And we'll make use of our drones. We've got a bunch of them here. And apparently the lasers have been updated, so we'll see some different effects with the lasers. And also the spitter effect has been updated as well, so we'll take a look at that. So let's move in. We've got a lot of defensive laser stuff, so we'll kill them quickly. But yeah, the spitters now fire weird globs of goop, of poison, and the poison works completely differently than before. Like, if you stand in it, you slow down and take lots of damage. It is not a good thing to hang around in. Luckily, oh dear. Luckily, their shots kind of trail. They try and aim for where you're going, though. So basically, zigzag is the strategy. Genuinely, you now need to zigzag to avoid being killed by these things, because they shoot where you're going to be. Flamethrowers do that as well now, by the way. Flamethrowers will predict where biters are going to go and shoot that specific spot. But yeah, it's a very risky game to play, because as soon as you get hit by one of these, you slow down, and then you're going to get hit by more of them. Gotta deploy more bots, because these guys are dying. Oh, I might go. Oh, yep, there we go. Yep, I pushed it a little bit too far. I ran head on a bit of the base, and they took me out. But there you go. You saw a bit of the action there. You probably spotted some spitters doing the thing. I was too busy running around trying not to die and failing at that. But there we go. There's a 100-hour map I'm on right now. There's my various kills. 3-player kills. Is that being run over? I feel like that's being run over probably. But yeah, that's the biters. So there we go. I guess that's all you're getting. But yeah, new laser effects, completely new way that the spitters work, and the new behemoth worms, and all the art for all of that stuff is changed. So enjoy dealing with these disgusting, horrifying creatures. I mean, the spitters aren't too bad, but the biters, ugh, oh, the legs, oh, like spiders. I don't like it. I'll have to deal though. Anyway, that's all the stuff like actually in the factories. The last thing to look at now is the map generation. So let's go over to that menu. And here we are back in the main menu of the game. The background is the same, but the menu has been changed to match with the rest of all the UI stuff. But yes, let's make a map. So we hit play, new game, usual stuff, and here we are in the map generation. Of course, it's the new UI, everything's changed. It's all aligned with everything else, and all the highlighting systems and stuff like that they like is there. And what we can do is hit this button here, preview. And it shows us the map preview. And we've had this before, but there's a lot, like, it's a lot better now, because it will actually, like, you can edit these sliders in real time, and it'll very quickly switch between all the stuff. It's real nice. It's a real nice effect. I will take a moment to show you the various map generation things. Also, I'm going to reset this, because I don't know why it was a modified version. I guess from me messing about with things before. But yeah, they've added a couple of new presets. And I find it quite funny in a way. One of them is island. If we hit this one, we'll get a look at what that's like. So it's one big island with some resources on it. You can change the size of the island and things like that. We'll get into that. But it's in the middle of the ocean. There is nothing around it. It's just one island. You've got to work with what that island gives you, and see if you can complete the game that way. And it looks like this is a pretty good one, actually. It's got all the stuff you need. There's oil, maybe not as much oil as I would like. But there's uranium there, looks like a fair bit. There's more oil there. You can probably make do. You could use coal for the rest of the oil stuff if you need to. That's nice. But then the other one is Ribbon World. I don't know why this keeps happening. It's like every time I make a YouTube series on Factorio, the devs introduce it as a game mode. It happened with Rail World as well. Admittedly with this one, I didn't come up with the idea for Ribbon World. Someone else came up with a Ribbon World long before I did. Long before I did a series on it, but I'm pretty sure I had come up with Rail World, so that one, I'm taking that one, I'm claiming that as mine. I came up with that like 4 years ago. But yeah, Ribbon World was someone else's idea, but it's funny that it's only come about on the thing now that I'm actually doing it. It is twice the height that I use. It's 128 tiles. Of course, you can change it. There's a map height thing, so it's like a particular Ribbon World. It's an easy one, really. I'd go for. Like, I think most people are like, who are like Ribbon World purists are like, oh, you gotta have 10 tiles or whatever. So it's like you can only just fit the rocket silo in at the end. I like 64 because it's enough room for a rail network as well as a main bus. But yeah, they've gone for 128, so it's a nicer one, but you can edit it. But yeah, those are the new ones. Island and Rimworld. I think everything else is the same. Deathworld Marathon might be newer. That might have been introduced in 0.16. I don't even know. But yeah, that's the list as it stands. And all of these can be modified as soon as you start changing the settings. It just puts the modified brackets next to it, so it still shows what the core of it is, but then whatever you edit, like, it shows that it's sort of a modified version. But yes, so here's all the sliders. Let's go back to like a default, I guess. There we go. Nice normal map, as it is. Bit of water around, lots of deposits. Too many deposits, in my opinion. I might actually just switch it to a rail world straight up. Let's just do that. I'm going to hit that button. It's my favorite map mode. I made the thing. Yeah, there we go. Lots of big deposits, space between them. Might space them more. Too much. Still too much stuff. Need more motivation for trains. Lower the size. Overall, there should be less, is my opinion, really. And they've got this balance. 3 times the size, a third the frequency. Now, you should keep the size almost the same. Or reduce the richness, maybe. Anyway, enough of me criticizing map generation settings. Also, they've got nice descriptions for them. I don't know if they were a thing before. But yeah, so these are basically the same as before. Frequency, size, and richness. If you crank up the frequency, there's a lot more iron deposits. Simple. There we go. There's loads of them all over the place. Let's bring that back down to normal. Richness shows no visual change in the preview because it's just making there be more iron per tile. You won't actually notice the difference. And then size is how much space a particular deposit covers. So that's all simple. Terrain is the cool one. They've changed the settings and how they work a little bit here. And the one that confused me for a while, but that made sense as soon as I actually messed with it, is the scale bar. So the scale and coverage, these are the two settings used for a lot of the different elements of the generation. And scale is literal, like completely literal, as in, let's have a look. So yeah, this lake here, you can see the structure here, it's sort of a triangle, there's a weird bit on the end here and a line here. If we increase the scale a bit, it's still here, but bigger and further away. It's literally scaled up the water. So the design, the arrangement hasn't changed. It literally just changes the scale. It's really weird to me, because when they were describing it in the Factorio effects, and I read scale, I'm like, I don't get it. And then they described it, and I'm like, I still don't get it. And then the moment I saw someone messing with the slider, I'm like, oh, it's literally scale. I don't know. It's just weird to me that it took me so long to get, but I feel like it's one of those things that just isn't intuitive till you see it. But yeah, you can mess with this slider and make it so that that lake is a tiny little pond. And you can make it even smaller, so it's basically just a dot. Oh, and my monitor's having a fit because of that, apparently. Yeah, it made it into a tiny little dot that you can barely see. And then you can scale it up so it becomes a massive ocean that's over here somewhere. Apparently my monitor's having a struggle when I try and generate these maps. It's too much work to generate a map, run Factorio, and run OBS at the same time. That's fair. There's a lot going on. Yeah, so that's how the scale works. It sort of blew my mind when I first saw it, but it's neat. So if you want to have giant lakes, the way to do it is to... it doesn't even matter what the coverage is, just as long as the scale is maxed out. But coverage high probably means it's a little bit better. So we put on high coverage, and then we put scale to max, and we're in a big old bit of land, but right on the edges are the starting bits of giant lakes, oceans that fill the map. We can shrink it a bit to get an idea of what these oceans look like, and okay, we need to shrink it more. And yeah, so if we shrink it right down, we can see that there's this big ocean here, which is also connected to a whole network going over here. But yeah, this giant thing here is now small. It's now a pretty small lake. There's a normal deposit, and there's that. And then we crank it back up again. And we can just see this little section of it peeking out. Which bit is that? This little structure here. What are we looking at? Shrink it back down again. I think we're looking at like that, maybe. Or maybe it's that, but I think it's that. I think we're seeing this tiny section here. So yeah, you can basically use the scale to cheat and see where the oceans are going to be. Yeah, this bit here is this bit of this ocean. So now, once again, you can have giant oceans, and I'm definitely going to switch it on, because I love giant oceans, as you might know if you've seen my Railworld series, where two-thirds of the series was about conquering a giant ocean. So there you go. You could do the same with trees, but it breaks a little bit more if you mess with the scale stuff. So let's go back to normal. And then tree coverage, crank this up, and there's just more trees. Lots more trees. The scale thing is weird because scale doesn't work the same way because we're talking about individual trees. So I'm gonna test this if I just crank this up to max. Yeah, okay, so it's actually made them more spaced out. Because the problem with the scale thing is that trees have a limit on density. So if the scale is low, then the gaps are smaller, and there's just more trees. So by having the scale up to max, all the tiny gaps become huge open areas, but if you lower the scale, those gaps shrink and become filled with trees. And if you put the scale to 0 and the coverage to high, the entire map is solid trees. Because what was previously a giant gap between forests becomes a gap between trees that is smaller than a tree. And so it's just trees. It's just pure trees. And you can have pure trees in a desert. If I remove all the moisture, it still generates a desert full of trees. So it gives you a lot more freedom in how you can arrange things in the map now. But yeah, don't put scale low on trees, you'll just have infinite trees. Put it on high, and even then it's a little bit, well, it's because I've got the coverage high. If we put the coverage back down to normal, then you get more normal tree coverage in more normal ways. But yeah, so we're moving down to the cliffs. Cliffs are a little bit weird because it looks on initial inspection like you can't get rid of cliffs now, but that's not actually the case. I'm going to bring us to... I'm going to mess with the terrain and give us a giant desert. Because that's probably easier to see things in. Here we go. So here's all of our... red desert will be better, actually. Hold on. I've learned how this stuff works now, so I just sort of intuitively know what to do. But it's a little bit weird. Yeah, so here's the cliffs, and if we reduce the frequency, the limit is 17%. You can't get lower than 17%. So there's still a bunch of cliffs around. It's not even got rid of them that much, honestly. Probably just a lot of tiny cliffs that are gone. I like that structure there. There's a little entrance, and then it's just like a closed thing. I want to generate this map now and see what that looks like. So yeah, the frequency can only drop a certain amount. You can't get rid of them. But the way you get rid of them is by making the cliffs be 0 long. It's a little bit weird. So there's a continuity, which is how long each cliff is, and then frequency is how many cliffs there are. So increasing continuity, there will be the same number of cliffs, but they will all be really long. They will just snake all over the place and be all connected. If you get rid of the continuity, there are no cliffs. If you put the continuity on the lowest setting you can, 17%, you'll have lots of tiny little bits of cliffs all over the place, and it looks terrible. Then you can crank the frequency up to max, and you just get this, this scattered mess of lots of tiny cliffs. And if you do frequency and continuity to max, you have a labyrinth. If you hate factories and being able to move, then you can just switch this on. You get all sorts of weird structures going on. I like how it is like an altitude map. They've done a good job with that sort of element of it. Okay, let's just bring these back down to normal. And then we get to the moisture and terrain type stuff. So I had to mess about with this. Let's bring it back to normal. So these are slightly weird. They had an old system that basically worked the same, and they wanted to make it so that it was workable in the map generator. So basically, moisture determines how green it is. Grass versus desert. Terrain type is weird. It's red desert versus white desert, or whatever you call it. Yellow desert? I don't know what the term would be. It's a little bit weird. So if you have the moisture high, then this doesn't affect it so much, because you don't have deserts. But it still sort of has an effect. So right now we're on the average, so we've got some greenery and stuff, and then there's sort of darker bits, and there's a bit of like red desert sort of stuff over here, and not really anything else. But it's not like full-on red desert. I think it's like a mix. If we crank up the moisture, then everything becomes super green. There's basically no desert around anymore. We can change the scale of this, so basically the scale in this case is the size of the biome. So we can make it so that there's just one giant grass biome, and you're going to have to travel a long way to find anything different. Or we can drop the scale to 0, and then you're still at really high moisture, so there's a lot of greenery, but every now and then you do stumble across deserts around the place, scattered in little bits. So now all the biomes are tiny, and basically, if you had this maxed out, you'd have to travel for years to find this place, but as it is, you can, and if you did find it, it'd be a huge area, but instead it's a tiny little patch. So I like the scale thing. It's sort of neat to just kind of mess around with and mess with the scales of things. But yeah, then we mess with this, we crank it up to this end. This is the red desert end, so everything becomes very red deserty. As soon as you get to desert, it's red. We'll turn this down a bit so there is more desert around. There we go. And yeah, so it's all red desert, and then if we flip it to the other end, it's all the white desert, the horrible barren stuff. Because I think red desert is like the cracked earth kind, and this is just like the sand kind is the idea. So yeah, this is all visual. It doesn't really affect the game in any way, though I think trees are less likely to grow on moistureless biomes. So if you want less trees, then just crank down the moisture and mess with the scale stuff and make it so that it's all just desert for miles if you don't want any wood around really. And yeah, that's basically how it works. And there's this weird graph that they did in the Factorio Friday Facts that shows how they relate, and it's weird because it's sort of it's like a triangular relation, but it's been put onto a square to make the two sliders work. 'Cause it's a 2D system of like moisture versus terrain type. And yeah, but at the top of moisture, it's all grassland, and at the bottom of moisture, there's the two kinds of desert. It's weird. I'm going too much into this. It doesn't matter that much. The enemy stuff is mostly the same as before, I believe. I think they've tweaked it so that the enemy-based stuff is more intuitive. But that just means there's less that I need to explain, because it just makes more sense. Frequency is how many bases there are. Size is how big the bases are. And Bob's your uncle. If you want to die, then crank them both up to max. I'm curious if there's the same number of biters either way. If I drop the frequency... Yeah, the bases stay the same size. It's not like a thing of sharing out the biters between bases. Starting area size is how much free space you have before biters turn up. So put it to max, and then you've got this ring of safety, and then death. Or you could get rid of it if you're insane. And then you'll die, because there's biters everywhere. And then there's the peaceful mode stuff, so... well, not the peaceful... You can switch that off and on, and then there's enemy expansion, which is off because I picked Railworld. And then there's all the usual stuff of, like... how far they can travel to expand, how large their expansion groups are, how long they wait before sending one, the longest they wait before sending one, and then there's the evolution stuff of like what affects the biters evolving, time, destruction of the bases, them absorbing pollution, and then we get to the advanced stuff. We've got the width and height of the map, usual stuff, recipes, and this is all the marathon mode stuff if you want to go for expensive recipes. Just means that you need more science packs to do research, and then the technology one, I still don't know if... Oh, I got it mixed up. No, it's the technology... Yeah, so this one means that you need more science packs to do science. I don't know if this does anything. I forget. Maybe they did... Did they change... I think they changed circuits and gears and a couple of things, actually. They did make different recipes for stuff. I wonder if they've changed any of the balancing for that. There's no mention of it in the changelog as far as I'm aware. And then you can... Ah, that's what it is. Yeah, okay, so there's recipe stuff. So circuits and gears and things require more materials. Technology, I don't think they require any more stuff if you switch that on. I don't think it's a thing. I think it's there for modders to use, maybe. I'm not really sure. The change is the price multiplier, where you determine, like, the multiplier given to researches on how many science packs is needed to complete the research. And then here is a new settings that it's hiding. I told you about this earlier, but this is the research queue thing. I don't know what the point is, but by default, you are only allowed to queue up researches after you've completed the game, as in after you've launched a rocket. But you can switch it to never, so you can never queue researches, or you can switch it to always, and why would you not do that? Because then it means you can queue up researches from the start of the game, and why would you not allow yourself to do that when you could do that? I don't know why... I don't even know why it's a setting. Like, if you want to not be allowed to queue researches, just don't queue researches. I don't get why it is a setting, and I especially don't get why the default is not letting you do the thing. So I'm gonna always have that on, because it just makes science simpler to operate. I don't get it. And then there's the pollution spreading things. How much the ground absorbs them, how much they damage trees, how much trees absorb them, how much it spreads, usual stuff. And that is all of the main important points of 0.17. It's a thing. It's a whole thing. I'm gonna go back to the menu, because we are done. This is a real long video, but that is like all the stuff that I got from my short list of interesting changes. And yeah, this was a more in-depth sort of thing. I know that some people prefer the sort of quick-fire run-throughs, but I like to get into all the details of everything. That's my approach of like discussing all the changes and going into all the fiddly stuff and finding the secret things, the things that other people might not necessarily have found, like the random drop down for changing the research stuff, and what was the other thing? There was another. Oh yeah, the hidden option for allowing ghost placing of things from the toolbar, and the hidden option for making you have more toolbars. So now I have 4 toolbars, which is great. I don't think the hotkeys work for all 4 of them, but I don't care. I have more toolbars now. It's great. And yeah, so I am so excited to go and play 0.17, because I've had to spend hours and hours working on this video before I get to go do that. Now I'm going to go have some fun playing the game, except I can't because I'm going to be rendering this video, but after then, I'm going to have some fun actually playing the game and starting the game from the beginning and seeing how it all works, and there shall probably be some series coming soon. I'll definitely see if I can update the Ribbon World livestream series to 0.17, if I can retrofit the main bus for that. And we'll see if we can get a new series going as well of the good old post-commentary stuff, so we can get a proper look at how the game progresses and not have to spend forever doing that. So that is 0.17. That is a new update. If you're having any trouble updating to that, there's a link in the description to a video which explains how to update. I recorded it a long time ago, but I do believe it is still completely accurate. So that will show you, if you're having some trouble, how you update the game. If you've got it from the website, if you've got it on Steam. At the time, those were the only 2 ways to get the game. I think there's more ways now, but I don't know them. So those are the 2 ways. They are explained, so that's all good. And yeah, there's going to be some other stuff in the description. Check down there, because I might have some important information about things that I missed or emergency hotfix requirements and stuff. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned this, but it's already 0.17.1. Like, before I even started recording, they managed to update the game with a hotfix that sorted out some crashing issues, because they're just like that. They are some of the best devs in the world, I should say, because they are always on the ball in terms of fixing problems, and they're always all hands on deck when a new update comes out. And the thing is that they bring out these experimental updates, and they're basically stable. I never have a Factorio crash, and as soon as an experimental version comes out, I download it. I like pretty much never had the game crash on me, which shows just like how much work is going into it, that it's already pretty stable when it comes out, and then they don't declare it stable by their standards till months and months later. But yes, anyway, I'm gonna go before my voice does, because it's definitely had enough of this. You might be able to hear it. If you go back to the beginning of the video now and make a comparison to of the voices, you might notice a bit of grating at this stage. So yeah, I'm sure I missed a lot of cool things. As I mentioned at the beginning, the changelog has 5,325 words in it. I didn't read all of them, I skimmed it for the important bits, and still came out with so much content that I filled 2 hours with it, I think. I don't even know how long this is anymore. But yeah, I hope that you enjoy playing this as much as I will, because I definitely will. And you'll see plenty more Factorio stuff from me in the future. This is something of a return to the channel for me, I think. I think it's time we get things moving again. And what better a time than when the penultimate update of Factorio comes out? I guess now, once this is done, we're looking ahead to 0.18, which is just some final balancing things, final graphical stuff, and then it's a release candidate. Then it's time for 1.0, and whatever the future holds for Factorio at that point. There we go. I guess you'll see me once, maybe twice more in this capacity before the final time, or perhaps there'll be more added to the game afterwards. Maybe they'll go back to adding more features once the game is released, but we'll see. A lot of speculation at this point. I should just wrap this up before my voice does. So thank you all very much for watching, and I shall say goodbye. Thank you for watching. I've said that twice, but I shall see you next time.